Epic Dumpster Bear 2. But first, I have a donation from NPC for $10 who says, I know this donation is barely a drop in the bucket, but it'd be unbearable to have not donated. I hope Kowal has a very good time with the speedrun. And with that, KowalLazy, please take it away with Epic Dumpster Bear 2.
Ugh, that was a grisly display of some bad puns. You may hear some meowing in the background as my cat is having her morning freak out. It's awesome. Welcome to Epic Dumpster Bear 2. I'm KowalLazy. One thing to go over real quick before I jump into the run is the basic mechanics of the game, because it's going to go real fast as soon as I hit this button. We have a double jump and we have a dash. The dash makes you go a little bit faster. It's like a third sort of mini jump, and we're going to be using that throughout the run to basically break a lot of movement mechanics. But anyway, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and go. Here we are, off and away. So we are starting with this stage here with this grinding on the rail, and the first thing we're supposed to learn is that grinding on the rail allows you to go a lot faster than just running speed. And we're going to try and preserve that speed for as long as possible. So I did not. Shame on me. You can see right away this sort of like bluish half-sphere thing going around on Dumpster Bear's dome. That is my boost mechanic, and that is what I'm using to get sort of a third mini jump to get over some of these obstacles. In many cases, it's only semi-intended. We're going to have a couple of these where it looks really weird, and I'll try and point those out as we go. But generally, we're going to try and use that to keep our speed up when we're running on straightaways and grinding on rails. I'm going to slow down and play it safe there just a little bit because I took damage in a spot I don't usually take damage. Fun quirk about the speedrun is that this stage, 1-1, is actually one of the most dangerous for the speedruns. We die here all the time. I don't understand. The run itself is not very safe, so I will almost certainly die at least twice. I skipped through a cutscene there, but basically the gist of the game's plot is that Epic Dumpster Bear is trying to protect the world from corporate devastation. It's destroying his environmental home, and it is causing all sorts of like weird GMO mutations to various barnyard creatures, which we will see at the end of Worlds 1 and 2 as the plot thickens.
To hear that this game has a plot.
Oh, it's great. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show off the cutscenes today. There are a couple really good doozies. If you are interested in the plot, Lincoln's actually put together a great video. It's on YouTube. You can watch all of the videos. We're introducing a new mechanic here. This is curling stones, because this game was made by a Canadian. And so curling stones, obviously, very important. I should speak about the creator a little bit as well. The creator is Log Games, which is a one guy, I believe his name is Ron Donaldson, and he's got a guy named Mike Petrie who does the music for the game. The music's actually great. It's one of those games that's sneaky good because it looks bad, but it's actually really, really great. The play is really smooth, it controls well, the mechanics are fun, it's fun to speedrun, but the music is bangers all the way through, so it's really hard to complain about the music here. Yeah. So anyway, curling stones and Canada. That's the important takeaway point for this stage. The creator of the game created 2 Epic Dumpster Bear games. Obviously, we're on the sequel right now. The first one is quite a bit longer and did not have the boost mechanic, so if you're interested in speedrunning Dumpster Bear-related games, this is probably the title you want to look at rather than the first one. It's quite a lot faster. It takes about half the time to complete a run. I'm missing all these targets on purpose because at the end of the stage, it counts up your total number of coins and a score based on where on the target you hit. And if you get 0 points for hitting the empty space next to the target, there's nothing for it to count, so it advances to the next stage faster. You're going to hear a lot of booing.
This bear is incredibly resilient. It just keeps dropping from like incredible heights, and it's fine. It's fine.
It's totally fine, yeah, and exploding bees, which are very important. So I'm supposed to take all these moving platforms there.
How do you get the honey?
Good point. I don't know what kind of honey these gigantic blue doom wasps are making, but you know what? It's probably pretty cool. So a lot of these stages early on, I'm going to be using these pipes to basically grind all the way to the end of the stage, skipping, I don't know, maybe like a dozen little obstacles along the way. We are coming into our first boss fight here at World 1-5, and this is our first mutated farm animal. Ooh, I almost missed the quick kill. That was scary. So he actually has 2 attacks. He can shoot lasers left and right, and he can also like sort of charge up and go Super Saiyan or something. I'm not really sure exactly what's going on, but if he goes Super Saiyan, it wastes like 5 seconds because he's immune to damage during that time, and there's not much we can do. This is a hard trick, so I'm going to focus for just a sec here. Nice, I got it. So this is all about preserving your momentum because there's a cycle-based mechanic at the end of the stage. There's these blocks that push forward into the foreground, and if you are struck by them, you're pushed through the foreground and hit the screen and take damage. That's these blocks right here. And normally, completing this stage is like a 42 or 43 second endeavor, but if you keep the momentum through the way I just did, which is actually really hard, it's one of the harder tricks in the run, you actually can get through on 1 cycle earlier, and you get whatever this is, which is probably like a 38 or 39. Hey, there we go. That is like the #1 trick that makes or breaks a run at this point. This level introduces the mechanic that we can go left or right. There's a couple different diverging paths, and you can choose which one to take. The left one is just better in every conceivable way. This sort of like wall climbing thing I'm doing right now is probably not fully intended. Generally, when you jump off of walls, you sort of jump into the opposite direction. Your momentum carries you away from the wall. You can fight it a little bit by immediately dash boosting the opposite direction, and you can cling back onto the wall. So if you alternate jumping and dashing, you can actually sort of snake your way up to the top of the walls.
What I want to know is, what did you do to piss that cow off?
He actually was granted human abilities by the corporation, and therefore was trying to kill me. I don't know what that means, but that's what it is. So there's a lot of like intended springs here. We're going over those springs, jumping instead. Springs are generally slower than the alternative. They can occasionally be really helpful, but for the most part, it makes you lose all your running speed momentum, and since your jump height is tied to your running momentum, we're going to try to avoid them as much as possible, really. Yep. Well, that wasn't ideal, but not a death, so I will be happy to take it. As I mentioned earlier, deaths are quite likely. If I get through this death list, it'll be shocking. Alright, so we're coming on to a level that introduces boost platforms, and I'll showcase those in just a second. We're going to see a bunch of them in the run, but this level really is basically all about the mechanic and kind of introducing you to how it works. It's these right here, and if you execute a dash boost while in that big red circle, it will actually fling you at a pretty good rate of speed in whatever direction the arrow is pointing. And it will refresh your double jump and boost jump, so you can actually chain them together and do all sorts of stuff. They are actually slightly slower than grinding on these pipes, so I'm actually skipping them. Even though they're generally considered a way to gain speed, it's faster to maintain my momentum from the pipe grinding than it is to do that. Oh, that was awesome. So we generally try to avoid hitting those little metal ball things at the end of the stage because they do increase your in-game time, and that's something I should talk about as well. There is a variance in load times, and it's a pretty significant variance. So we actually use in-game time for the speedrun leaderboards on this game. Oh, we're going to restart. That animation's 15 seconds long. So the in-game record is 18:59. I got it by mistake the other day. I actually thought it was a pretty bad run until I checked the time at the end of the run. So that was pretty cool. Anything sub 20 is pretty remarkable, but that's going to be RTA of almost a full minute longer based on load times and skipping cutscenes and things like that. So we won't have a really accurate reading as to whether this run was pretty good or pretty mediocre until the very end, which I guess is exciting for world record attempts because, like previously, you can have a run that feels bad and then wind up actually getting a pretty good time out of it. So this is a long fall. We had one in World 1, but it was kind of unremarkable. This is the harder long fall. As mentioned earlier, the targets and coins count up at the end of the stage, and it wastes time. So we're trying to get as few coins and as few targets as possible. And the safest way to avoid hitting the bumpy things on that long fall also involves having to dodge a bunch of coins on the way down. So it's awkward. You sometimes try and overcorrect to avoid coins and hit a bumper, and it just feels bad. Now we've got these teleporting pads. They actually were in the first game, so anybody who played Epic Dumpster Bear 1 should be familiar with that mechanic. But they do preserve your momentum, even though you're coming out of a different side of the portal. So you can get yourself into trouble. They can actually like launch you into spikes and instant death and stuff like that. Instant death is a big deal on this stage, and on all the stages in World 3, those fans are actually instant death, and they will cut you apart. And I almost just caught one with my face a minute ago, so that was exciting. Honestly, so far this is going pretty well. None of these stages are world beaters, but to not have a death at this point feels good. Good, I like it.
At the end, the bear just takes a nap, you know.
Yeah, he's had an exhausting day. So this is the stage I usually get into trouble because I get super greedy. Ooh, that was cutting it close. Hardest thing on this stage is keeping your momentum through the stage end, and that actually went together pretty well. So, sorry, that was weird. I had to focus for a second. Usually I can talk over anything, but this game is the one thing that distracts me enough to prevent me from making words with my mouth. So this introduces buttons, and the buttons are the worst part of the game by far. They don't have really good collision detection, and so you can occasionally dash into them, which would normally trigger the buttons, but unfortunately, they don't always work the way that they are intended. The developer has said that they are intended to work in such a way that they will be depressed if you hit them while you are moving, but if you dash from a stationary position, they won't trigger. We've since found out that that's not actually true, so they're not officially working the way that the developer intended. But there are some sort of workarounds, ways to set it up so that we know we're in a position that the button's actually going to get hit. It raises the success rate to something like 80% instead of like 50%. So it's not perfect, but for the purposes of a speed run, at least, it makes it consistent enough. I should talk a little bit about dash boost as well, the mechanics behind the dash boost. I hit a target, cool. The dash boost is directional. You can hold any direction on the D-pad and boost, and it will rocket you in that direction, as long as you haven't already dash boosted once on the jump that you are currently on, incoming Salmon Head. You can use that to gain jump height when it's necessary, but one of the things that makes it most useful for a speed run is to dash boost laterally. Going left and right and left, depending on what direction you're trying to go on that stage, is a much better use of time. Each time you do it, you pick up about 0.3 of a second, versus using it for jump height, you pick up no time whatsoever. So we're trying to route in as many places as you can possibly dash boost left and right. This could be interesting. I'm off my cycle here, so let's see. I think it should be okay. This is actually one of the more dangerous stages, so I have to be a little bit more careful. There we go. Should be fine now. I actually skipped the second booster there because it will put you so far up that you have to wait to fall back down to pick up your running speed again. So going right over it is actually better.
This is amazing, but I really wanted to see that cutscene with the salmon head, man. What's the story? What's the salmon head story?
I don't actually remember what the salmon head specifically is. I mean, they're all like, as I mentioned, these sort of corporation-modified animals. It's supposed to be this big insult to Dumpster Bear since he's all about protecting and preserving the environment. But we're about to find out who the big villain is of the game right now. In this world here, as I should say, in about a minute and a half, not right now, but the evil mind behind all of these devices and constructions is in space, so we have to go to space to go beat them up. The first two stages in World 4 that I just completed here, they're actually arguably the most dangerous stages in the entire game, or at least they used to be until fairly recently. We made a lot of changes with the routing to make these stages a little bit less dangerous, particularly for marathon safety. Oh, that's gonna hurt. There we go. But now that we're on stage 4-3, it's gonna look more dangerous, but that's a mirage. It's actually quite a bit safer than the first two stages. I got really lucky on that one. I should have taken damage from landing on that burning dumpster, and I actually didn't. I landed sort of right on the corner of it, which sometimes protects you, but I also was dash boosting at the same time, so I probably dash boosted through the damage. I think I saw in the chat earlier, I can't really pay attention to the chat because this game plays so fast, but someone was asking how I just went right through an obstacle without taking damage earlier, and that is because your dash boost makes you immune to damage for a fraction of a second. I don't know how long, what fraction that actually is. I just know that it's real limited. It's probably maybe a quarter of a second or so. And there's some places where we can stagger it to get through obstacles faster. There is a double fire jet in World 1-4 that is a notorious place to take damage because the speedrun sort of requires you to dash boost through it to prevent damage, and the timing is miserable. That was a really good 5-4. I'm really happy with that one. All right, so here we go. The actual villain of the game, Jank Brain. This is not the final boss, by the way, but it is Jank Brain, so that's important. The lore is critical here. Oop, I rocketed myself into the sky. It's all good. Jank Brain is DeFito. And Jank Brain tells us what we're looking for is actually back on Earth. So we believe him. He seems like a reputable guy. Get all the way off of my pattern here. There we go. That's going to make this exciting. I don't know what all the cycles I'm running into now are. But we have to go back to Earth and figure out what Jank Brain was telling us. It's important.
I don't know, but I like that hot tip that coolers aren't bear-proof.
Yes. There's lots of important bear facts that the game would like to share with you, as well as some facts about game design, like lives are an outdated mechanic in platformers. Correct. Kind of a weird thing to see when all the other things are about, you know, bear safety, but it's not wrong.
I mean, it does keep the bear safe.
All right, so now the biggest skip in the run is about to occur. This skip saves like 15 or 20 seconds, which if you've been paying attention, you know, the game's real fast. Saving that much time is kind of ridiculous, but it's also the most dangerous trick in the game, I would say. The more like individual trick. The level itself isn't so bad. Oh, and we're gonna take the first death here, so that's rough. I was sort of off my cycle because I went the wrong way up one of those boxes, so we're gonna try it again. The thing is, the death only costs like, I don't know, 8 seconds or so, so the fact that we're saving 15, it's actually still a net win. Here we go. So this is very much not intended part of the level design for you to go through. It actually goes under a huge network of obstacles and enemies, and at one time, this stage was the most likely stage to die from damage rather than falling in a pit because there were so many enemies and places to get sort of bottlenecked. That skip goes all the way under the level and emerges on the other side. Previously, the individual level record was like 49 seconds, and that wasn't a very good executed stage. It was still a 32, so pretty gigantic change there. It happened like right after Lincolns and I were passing the record back and forth, and I had just taken the record at that point, and Log Games, the guy who made this game, tweeted at us because he had watched a video of somebody doing that, and he was like, that probably saves time in the speedrun. And he's right, it saves a ton of time in the speedrun. And I meant to mention it earlier, but Log Games is a wicked cool guy. In addition to making this game, he's also a regular in our streams. Oh, I'm gonna take another death here, that sucks. But he is like super cool, and a lot of the mechanics that are in this game are because he wanted to make it more fun for speedrunners. My pitch doesn't end there, by the way. The game is only like $5 on Steam, so go buy this game, please. It's really good. Even if you just play it once, it's worth $5.
I have to see what the salmon head says.
Yes, that's an important thing. Is there an EDB3 coming? Maybe. The story goes, and I don't know if it's true or if he was just messing with us, but the story goes that this game was originally supposed to be the adventures of Jankbrain, and it was going to have no Dumpster Bear in it or have him as an antagonist or something like that. That didn't happen. It became obviously Dumpster Bear 2 instead. So maybe there's still a Jankbrain game in the works. Maybe it'll become a trilogy and we'll get a third installment. I don't know. These are questions I can't answer, but I hope that there's more. As I mentioned a couple times, the game looks the way it does because it's all Unity assets. Most of them are free assets. I think he paid money for like the barrels or something like that, and maybe one other asset, but the actual gameplay mechanics, the level design, the music is excellent. It really is a really well-made game. So yes, spend $6, please. Buy this game. It's awesome.
This guy hangs out in your chat often. You need to ask him to put poutine in the next game.
I don't doubt that he would. I'm pretty sure he would be happy to.
I really want to see it. I would like to see it.
All right, so we're not going to get the quick kill that time. This is the true final boss of the run. This is Dumpster Dad. It is, the classic Star Wars Dumpster Bear, I am your father. Here he is, the big man himself. And that is going to be the final boss. And that is time. And then we find out what we actually are looking at for time at the end here. 20:03 ain't bad. I will happily take that for a marathon. So anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed Epic Dumpster Bear 2 and heard me talking really fast for 22 minutes. Again, support the creator. Buy the game. It's great. Follow him on Twitter, Log Games. He's great. And enjoy the rest of the runs. And support the charity and all that jazz. Thank you again for having me power up with pride.
Thank you so much, KowalLazy, for that amazing showing of Epic Dumpster Bear 2. I want to know what Epic Dumpster Bear's dad had to say. He's like, I'm overcome with
There is a secret ending where they get to eat roast salmon on a dumpster fire together. It's very sweet.
It sounds like the perfect father-son bonding experience. Okay, so on deck we have more amazing speedruns, TRI of Friendship and Madness.